Welcome to Blue Glasses Math. In this podcast, we will explore how our self-perception as math teachers and learners influences our approach to life. Whether you identify as a math enthusiast or not, this podcast is for you. Are you a teacher, a parent, a school administrator, or a student? Join me as we shift our perspective on what it means to be a math person. Let's take a look. Hey there, Blue Glasses Math community. I am here today with a solo episode because I feel like it's time for me to regroup and help you understand what the reason is, what are some of the reasons why I started this podcast, and really to reconnect with you in a way that I haven't done in a really long time. So I've been thinking about all of the ideas that have inspired this podcast, and one of the ones that keeps coming up for me is this book by Frances Su. If you don't have it already, you should definitely grab a copy. Go to your local bookstore, or you click the link, and you know the one, and get your copy today. In this book, Mathematics for Human Flourishing, Frances Su says I claim, this is on page 10, I claim that the proper practice of mathematics cultivates virtues that help people flourish. The virtues, I'm having a hard time with that word, the virtues serve you well no matter what profession you use or where your life takes you. And he goes on to say, and I love this part, the skills that society needs from math may change, but the virtues needed from math will not. He talks about the movement, the kind of growing chorus of those who have called for a humanization of mathematics. Going beyond the idea of when am I ever going to value this, to developing virtues, and I'm going to read to you some of the human aspects of learning mathematics in his book. I'm just going to read from the table of contents. Okay. So some of the things that Frances Su talks about in this book that mathematics gives us are meaning, play, permanence, truth, struggle, power, justice, freedom, community, and love. Oh my gosh. So what does this tell us, right? This tells us that teaching and learning math is about way more than getting students to understand the algorithms or getting students to understand all the strategies, right? I'm thinking of in fourth grade where we start teaching students about the partial quotients. And partial quotients is a method for division. And a lot of times I hear teachers say, why can't I just teach them the algorithm? And there's actually reason for that. And I'm not going to get into it too much in this episode, but the first thing is not developmentally appropriate for fourth graders to be doing the standard algorithm for division, because what they do is then they just memorize a bunch of steps and they usually implement the steps incorrectly, and it's just not a good idea. The other reason why is because when we teach students using partial quotients, it gives them an opportunity to develop this reasoning. Okay, so framing teaching and learning math as a human endeavor, as more than teaching students what they need in third grade to get to what they need to do in fourth grade. Most teachers did not get into teaching because they just wanted to prepare their students for the next grade level. It's deeper than that. It's richer than that. And I feel like we've gotten so far away from what does it actually mean to teach students. What do we actually, if you stopped down and thought, all right, if you're a teacher listening to this, when you walk in day one, and you're faced with this new crop of students that you have in front of you, if you really stop and think, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish with those students in front of you? And I'm talking specifically in mathematics. Why did you become a teacher in the first place? And I encourage teachers to start thinking and reflecting back on what does it mean to teach the human beings that are in your class. And I know there's all of this noise of assessments and curriculum and SGOs and all the acronyms that you could list. And if we have a collective voice about what is it that we're actually trying to do here, then I think that ideas like Francis Su addresses in his book will actually start to happen in math class. So recently I was in a math classroom and a student asked me if I was an emotional math doctor. And it literally stopped me in my tracks. Am I an emotional math doctor? No, sorry, he didn't say emotional math doctor. Okay. I was in a class recently and a student asked me, are you a psychological math doctor? This question stopped me in my tracks, and I'll tell you why. It stopped me in my tracks because first of all, no kid had ever brought up any idea of anything remotely related to emotions when I'm in class with them. The second reason is because I don't know that he really realized the impact of his question, because then I followed up by asking the whole class. So they were sitting in front of me on the carpet. I was about to start a number talk with them. But before I started the number talk, I wanted to introduce myself because this was the first time I was visiting their class. In my role as math coach, this was a 5th grade group of students. They had never had a math coach before. The teacher was standing in the room and he asked, are you a psychological math doctor? And my response was like a visceral reaction. I was like, yes, that's exactly what I am. I am a psychological math doctor. But then I stopped and I said, but wait, if I'm a psychological math doctor and psychology, that word, has something to do with emotions and how we manage our emotions or the study of emotions, then does that mean that emotions happen in math class? And they were like, yes. Every hand in the room shot up and I was absolutely shocked. So I said, so what emotions do you experience? And this is what they said. I recorded what they were saying as they were saying them, as they were saying the psychological words, the emotion words. They said exhausted, sad, upset, mad, frustrating, angry, determined, happy, confused, calm, flabbergasted, and confident. Now, something really interesting happened when they were listing these emotions to me, because the student who said happy, right away, all of the students in class said, well, of course you feel happy because you always get it. I was like, aha. So not only are there emotions happening in math class, but the students have also been able to identify which students are going to have which emotions based on who is good in math or who enjoys math. Isn't that interesting? 5th graders. So intuitive. So in the moment, I didn't have my phone with me. I had written all of their emotion words on the board, and then I just grabbed my laptop and took a picture of it with my laptop. So I posted about this on Instagram a while back, but I'll link the actual post in the show notes here so you can take a look at the emotions. So here's my question. What if the discomfort that students feel, or the powerful emotions that students feel in math class, that these emotions are not problems to solve, but actually a sign of growth and progress and necessary to the process of learning math? I have taught over and over again, in all of the classrooms that I have been to, I have constantly seen this cycle of students having feelings in math class. And I never really addressed it. I got to be honest. I taught for 8 years before I started realizing that, oh my gosh, exactly what's happening in this math class is that the emotions are serving as catalysts for how the students believe in themselves and their abilities. I dove into this research, and I won't bore you with the research, but in this research, I unpacked why making math easier is actually not the answer. Giving students strategies to and scaffolding the math is actually not the answer to helping students sit with challenges. The kindest thing we can do with students, the kindest thing we can do actually, is to give them opportunities so that they can grow as humans in Math for Human Flourishing and develop virtues that require emotions as part of the process. Powerful emotions. And what are the implications there for teachers? As teachers, we personally, right, myself included, when I was teaching and I saw students having emotional discomfort, especially discomfort, because let me back up to like, why do we go into the profession of teaching? Well, we go into the profession of teaching because we love students, right? We want to work with kids. We want them to grow and we want them to flourish. And a lot of times it's really hard when you see a student struggling, and it's hard to decide, okay, at what point do I step in? And how long do I let this go before the student actually like gives up or gives in? And how can I respond to that student's powerful emotions while also maintaining their growth in mathematics? So they're either not giving up and I'm not giving in. Yeah. So as I've worked with students and teachers, I've seen that there is this cyclical pattern of how students and teachers shift beliefs in math class. And so the belief cycle, I'm going to kind of explain it to you. So I want you to imagine a cycle, and I've explained this once before on a previous episode, but I'm going to unpack it a little bit deeper here. So with everything we do, we walk into it with a belief. Of course, today I'm talking specifically in math class. So when your students step across your threshold in late August or early September, whenever your school year starts, what beliefs are they bringing with them about mathematics? So I'm actually going to turn this upside down, because I had a student once who walked in my class. She was a 6th grader, and she believed that she was a rock star in math. Why? Because she had gotten gold stars. She had memorized her multiplication facts. She had, she could quick recall. In 6th grade, things start to change, though, in math. And in this particular district, they had actually switched from one curriculum to another. And the first curriculum that they had was that, like, quick and dirty. I'm snapping my fingers. I don't know if you can hear me, but like quick and dirty, give me the answer. Yes, you're right. Okay, move on to the next problem. Whereas this new curriculum was a little bit more conceptually based, and there was a spiral. So those of you who are familiar with curriculum, you can probably figure out which one I'm talking about. And there was this spiral that went back and like it would continue to revisit different concepts. But it also required us to go deeper with the concepts. And the very first quiz that I gave, I will never forget. The student stayed after class, and I honestly don't remember what grade she had gotten, but it wasn't the A+ that she was accustomed to getting. And she just melted in tears. Like, first of all, I was so thrilled that she was able to come to me right away. That was a huge strength for her. So right in that moment, just that was a strength, that she came to me showing up with her vulnerability, and she was asking me, what can I do? All the things the kids say. My mom's going to kill me, right? I've never gotten a grade like this before. How do I fix it, right? So in 6th grade, she was so mature. She showed such grace and maturity in this whole experience. And when I reflect on that moment, for me as a teacher, I remember exactly where we were standing in the classroom. And I was thinking, okay, I could rescue this student. I could tell her, you know what? I'll change the grade, which most teachers would not do. I could tell her she could do a makeup. I could tell her a lot of different things. But instead, I let her sit in her discomfort. Not like sitting in her discomfort, but I held space for her. And I showed sympathy. And I said, I know this is hard. 6th grade is going to be a little different than what you're accustomed to. And I'm going to push you because I know that you can. Right? I'm going to give you I'm going to give you more than what you have seen before in this class, because you can. Because you can use your brain in different ways than you have ever used it before. And as you grow and learn, this is going to actually help you as you grow older. Of course, I don't know if she believed me in the moment, but that's the point of this whole belief cycle, is that in that moment, she thought that her beliefs were that I am a rock star math student. I come in here and I'm going to take this quiz and I'm going to do a great job. And then she takes the quiz, and the result was that she didn't do so hot on the quiz. And now her belief is shifting. And she's thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not good at math, right? Now it's my job as a teacher to help provide opportunities to push her action, to provide opportunities so that she has the opportunity to take action and have different results and get back into the spot where maybe her belief shifts about what it means to be successful in math, right? It's not about memorizing. It's about thinking and reasoning and using your brain in different ways so that you can flourish as a human being. So the belief cycle that I kind of just took you through as an example is, imagine a wheel. So beliefs on the top, thoughts at like, what's that? I go clockwise. So beliefs, thoughts at 3 o'clock, actions at 6 o'clock, results at 9 o'clock. And all of these 4 components are fueled, catalyzed by the emotions that we're feeling in between each of those pieces and during each of those pieces, right? So beliefs, thoughts, actions, results. Emotions catalyzing the whole cycle. And so I want you to think back again to the students who are going to be stepping over your threshold at end of August, early September. What beliefs are they coming in with? And how will you either embrace those mistakes, embrace those beliefs and help to build those beliefs up? How much time do you need to spend helping students to shift their beliefs about what it means to do and learn mathematics? Because these beliefs don't come out of nowhere, right? Just like you're going to be shaping those beliefs in your classroom, these beliefs are shaped by all of the experience that your students have had prior to stepping across your threshold. And really, when we unpack this, those beliefs, the second step, we're at 3 o'clock, are the thoughts, right? The stories that we tell ourselves about what it means to be correct in math, or what does it mean to have value in math, and what it means to make a mistake, and what that means for my future, right? And how do I interact with those mistakes? Emotions like shame and frustration and confusion arise not just from the math itself, but from how we have been trained to think through the system about correctness and speed in math class. Even young students, second grade is usually where students start to avoid tasks to avoid the risk of being embarrassed, right? Have you ever been in a classroom where you have a student who is asking for a bathroom break over and over and over again? I know I have. Just recently I walked into a class, I was a math coach, and I heard a student say, "Oh, here she comes again," right? They're not thrilled to see me all the time because they know that I'm going to bring some math that will maybe challenge them and might make them feel a little bit uncomfortable. But I can tell you that 99% of those students come around, and this is not just me teaching, this is also in the research that I've done, watching teachers help students by holding space for them. And holding space is kind of like it's a term that people might be like, oh, holding space, like making these kids soft. No, I think it's actually quite the opposite. I think holding space for students to feel their powerful emotions is actually making our students stronger. So I'm going to use the analogy of this morning. This morning I went to boxing class. It's one of the things I do so that I can do all the other things. And I had signed up for boxing. I'm actually leaving to go on a trip today at 2:30. And I was like, I need a boxing class before I go. And in the boxing class, my trainer is pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. And was it uncomfortable? Yeah, it was. I had sweat dripping out of my eyeballs and my arms felt like spaghetti. And I didn't feel like I wanted to keep going. But it was 90 seconds. And at the end of that 90 seconds, guess what I felt? I felt like a badass. And that's what I want your students to feel. I want them to feel like, okay, I got through this because my trainer was just encouraging me all the way, right? I know it hurts. This is strength. This is making you stronger. And if you think of every single thing that we do in our lives, these emotions are always tied to like getting to the next level. So the myth of making it easier. Why is it that helping students by stepping in too fast robs students of growth? And again, Francis Sue says, struggle is not the opposite of flourishing. It's part of it. So I'm going to challenge our belief as math teachers that kindness in math class means making things simple. So I'm going to be a little gentle here because, again, we want students to want to engage. We want students to want to come back to our class. But I challenge the idea that making everything fun and making everything feel like it's easy is actually doing the opposite of being kind. Kindness means, to me in math class, kindness means believing that students are capable of doing hard thinking and sticking with them through that emotional discomfort. I will say that again. kindness in math class means believing students are capable of hard thinking and sticking with them through the emotional discomfort. Because after confusion comes clarity. After surviving frustration comes pride. So let's try this coming school year to not bypass emotions, but engage with them. Ask students how they're feeling. Celebrate their mistakes publicly and give space before offering help. Another book that I've been reading, and I actually got a chance to see the author in a keynote, which I would highly recommend you start following, Mark Brackett. He's out of Yale. And he wrote a book recently called Permission to Feel. And of course, Brene Brown reviews it on the front cover. Practical, tactical, and actionable. And the idea of this book is the power of emotional intelligence to achieve well-being and success. So Dr. Brackett is an absolute wizard when it comes to this stuff. He's done all the research, and it's all based on science. There's no woo-woo in this book. It's all based on science. And the idea of it is giving students the opportunity to feel their feelings, holding space for those feelings, and then celebrating those feelings at the end. So I'm going to wrap up by asking you this. What emotions do your students feel in your math classroom? And what beliefs might be growing from those emotions? What beliefs might be, what beliefs might be growing from those emotions? How are those emotions catalyzing the beliefs in your math class? So I want to reframe moments of struggle as the point of teaching math, not the problem. And I invite you to share your own emotional math memories with the Blue Glasses Math community. And here's how you can do it. You can comment on the podcast. You can also go to Instagram, which is where I'm most active, or even LinkedIn. LinkedIn and Instagram are most of the places where I hang out. And I'd like you to comment. Where have you experienced math I give you an invitation to share your own emotional math memories with the Blue Glasses Math community. And I also invite you to think about how your students' emotional math experiences are driving their beliefs about math. So thanks for hanging out with me on this solo episode. The next couple episodes will be Blast from the Past. Things are falling off of my bulletin board. The next few episodes will be Blast from the Past. It's summer. I'm going to give people a break, but give people an opportunity to go back and take a look at different perspectives. So again, remember, this podcast is all about how we shift our perspectives on what it means to be a math person. And I invite you to come along for the ride. So thanks so much for listening. If you liked this episode, please take a screenshot, put it up on Instagram. Share on social media. The more people we can get into this conversation, the more we will have opportunities for teachers to feel strong and give them what they need for teaching and learning math. I'm Pam Brett. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode of Blue Glasses Math. Please follow me wherever you get your podcasts and follow along on the conversation on Instagram. And remember, being a math person is all just a matter of perspective.